Welcome to Milk and Mummies podcast. This podcast was created simply because I found myself happily pregnant and self-employed and wondering, how was I going to juggle it all? Get comfy as we talk all things motherhood, working for yourself and finding that elusive balance, honestly. Hello.
Hello. Hi. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah. Welcome. So who are you and what do you do?
My name is Rebecca Bernice Amissah. I'm
hello.
a singer, songwriter, actor, author, choir director, all the things. And mother.
There we go. That's what's the key thing. Are you okay? You feel like you seem really like.
Well, I haven't done a podcast. Is this your first one? I think it's my first podcast. So it's exciting, but also
Oh, yay. I'm so glad. Well, welcome.
Thank
It's very
you.
chill. You can swear. You can do all the things that you want to do. I wanted to pick your brain. So I'm very glad that you were available and I'm very glad that you're here today. Welcome to Milk and Mummies.
Thank you for having me.
How is motherhood? How's life? How are you doing?
Do you know what? I really am enjoying motherhood. I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying it. So my son, Jacob, is 2 now. He was 2.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, two weeks ago.
Yes.
And he is, I call him my little marvel. So he's doing so many things.
Yeah.
Like he's learning to spell. He's
Yeah.
speaking. He's definitely telling me about myself when he
my
feels
gosh.
the urge.
Yes.
So, the kind of level that he's bringing to me and the trying to be a gentle parent in these streets is not always compatible. So wish me luck.
My gosh. So before motherhood, before all of that, what did you do? What were you about? Where did you go? Who were you? What did you do? All this stuff.
So, I mean, I feel like I'm quite lucky to say I'm still doing the same thing. So I've always been a freelance creative in one way or another.
Yes, this is true.
And that hasn't really changed. I've been really lucky to be able to, transcend that, how you say that? Or just to continue doing it.
Yeah.
With, with him on my hip.
Yeah.
So I've always been a professional singer.
Yeah.
I run a group called Gospel Essence. I mean, that's slowed down a lot more since
motherhood.
Well, pandemic and then
yeah,
motherhood. Yeah, so it's kind of slowed down during the pandemic, and it hasn't really picked up again because my sort of acting sort of then stepped up. So it's just been challenging to kind of balance all of the things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I ran. Gospel is still going. It's still going. So that was 13 years now. That's been going on.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a long time. What else? Singing professionally. I've been acting now for 4-5 years. So I've been doing that. I've become an author.
Yes, I saw. So basically, what I'm trying. Do you know what? I really want to try and see if there was, or if there has been, how can I make this make sense and put it into English? I guess, you know what, you've actually really answered the question already, I suppose. Who you were before hasn't really changed much, if at all, because of motherhood, if that makes sense. It's been an addition to your space and to your world, but you've been able to consistently maintain working creatively, which is actually really awesome, because I think a lot of people have had, not a lot of people, but I guess some of the people I've spoken to have had that sort of, almost been like a shift. And I guess it's, I don't know, I feel like it almost feels like a sense of time management on their side. So it's actually quite nice that you've been able to sort of blend that all in quite seamlessly, Yeah. Fair to say?
I think so, yeah. I think largely that's happened because I've got such a strong village.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have happened
That's
otherwise.
true. I love how I'm pretending like I don't know what's going on in your life. I'm like, But yeah, go on.
But I think for me personally, without my village, it wouldn't have happened, because I was in a play before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And
you didn't give birth to Jacob during the pandemic, did you?
Kind of tail end of it. So it was kind of 2021 when he was born.
Yeah.
So we were still in it.
Yeah.
But, in terms of like arts it was very tentative, as if things were getting back on track. So the world was, you know, starting to kind of get back in on its feet, but the creatives were still kind of like, well, we can't really have anyone in the theatre, we can't really do gigs, and it was still bubbles and all that kind of stuff. What a time, it's true. So, I mean, luckily in terms of like the birth side of things, I was still able to have birthing partners in the room, and those kind of things weren't affected. But in terms of work, they were still in a place where it was still tricky. So it was very slow. So I was in a play before the pandemic. Obviously, that got cancelled just as we were going into tech.
Right.
So I'd kind of done all the rehearsals. We kind of got as far as we, you know, and then when it looked like they were going to finally put it up, because there was a few sort of dates that were coming, I was like, oh, I'm pregnant, not sure. So then when it's like, it's definitely going to happen in February, I was like, well, I would have an 8-week-old at that time. So at that point I was still pregnant when they were proposing that they had kind of got some dates locked in. And I was like, I don't even know what kind of birth I'm going to have to be thinking I can be tap dancing on any stage. Yeah,
of course. What your recovery is going to be like.
Exactly.
If you even want to be away from baby.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was a bit like, I don't know. So they were really like gracious, and they said, okay, well, we'll check in with you in, I think it might have been January. We'll check in with you then and see how you feel. So I started putting the feelers out with the family and was like, what does it even look like? What do you think? And my family were just like, go for it. We'll help you. We'll support you. My partner the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, when he was 15 weeks, I went to work.
What was that like? How did that feel like?
Well, it was crazy, because I think my most important thing was I wanted to be able to breastfeed. I was like, I'm not going to do this job and then not be able to breastfeed my child. So I need to make sure that I can sustain my milk during the job. So that was the most important thing. So I said that to my agent, and he spoke to the team, and they said, well, you know, they hadn't, especially before this, women weren't really going back to work. I think there's something like 70% of people in theatre don't return.
Well, after childbirth?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
It's something crazy high. Something crazy high.
Whoa.
Like, at least in that region, they don't return. So, you know, everyone's just like winging it. It's like, okay, well, we'll let's just see. We'll work around. So I was like pumping on breaks, and they gave me an office space where I could, you know, have some privacy and a space in the fridge and some containers that I could put my milk in and stuff. But it was just it's not, you know what it's like when you're expressing, you don't get a break. So you're just kind of running. It's like, okay, tea break, we're running, you're expressing. You come back, you're exhausted, but you have to keep going. Lunchtime, you're doing the same. So,
and if you're using an electric pump, if you forget to charge it, then that's a whole situation or a problem. So I tend to I have an electric one and a handheld one, just for that very, very reason. Or if my electric one decides to be an absolute douche, because it does that sometimes. But it's constant. And what's really great about this is hearing the fact that you had a team and had a production that was happy to work around you and work with you, which I'm super grateful to have had that same experience. But when I sort of share this sort of information with, I guess, women in our field who are slightly older, they can definitely recollect a time where that was just not
the case.
Not the case at all. So for all this to be happening, phenomenal. And it's like for them, it's like you could never imagine you wouldn't be able to work, as you've said.
Yeah,
like,
you just can't.
Yeah,
because if you want to breastfeed, then what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think specifically because of the pandemic, and I think on the job I was there, it was a female director who aspires to be a mother at one point.
Yeah.
The choreographer had a baby, another girl in the show had a baby, one of the producers had a baby during that time. So I think everyone was just like, listen, we need to try and find a way. Like, you know, they were all back at work and wanting it to work. So I think the time was on my side. So yeah, I felt really supported to be able to do that. Plus, as I say, my parents were amazing. He was there a lot of the time. My sisters pulled in, my partner as well. So that made it possible.
Yeah. How did you feel being away from him at that age?
Do you know what? I'll be honest and say that it was easier than I thought it was going to be.
Okay,
in a sense that if there's anyone in the world, I was going to leave my childhood with my parents.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that kind of overwhelming like guilt, because there's nowhere else I would put him. Like if my only choice was to have paid for childcare with someone I didn't know, I wouldn't have gone. That would have made a difference if I would have been able to do the job, if my parents weren't able to look after him. So I was able to kind of switch off and just focus on the job. I mean, switch off as much as you can when every, couple of hours your breasts are going, ah. So you know, I was able to kind of trust he was fine and not feel like I had to call all the time or check on them, because I know they know what they're doing. I know they know what they're doing. So I was, but then I kind of coached myself as well to be like,
coached how do you mean?
In the sense of like, I have to be like, I still have to do a job. I'm here to like learn my lines, know what I'm doing, learn routines. And if I'm going to be like on the phone the whole time, then obviously it's not the right thing. Like, so I had to just, you know, be very strict with myself, not to keep checking in, not to keep, you know, obviously it's those things like, it's almost easier when he was smaller than now. Because when he's small, it's a case of, okay, well, he'll sleep.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
he'll, you know,
still
he'll be
asleep in that little spot.
In that little spot.
Not going to move around
exactly.
much.
And I was there every evening. The mornings I was I was with him as much as I could be. The I think the rehearsal stage is the hardest part, because you're rehearsing during the day, and then when you're in a show in the evening, then it's just kind of like, okay, from when I've got to be in, then that's it
to when you finish.
So that made it a slightly easier routine to kind of fall into. So up until rehearsals and in tech is where it's like basically like a 12-hour day. And even then I was really lucky because they accommodated that. So one of the company manager had a flat just across from the theatre. So there was one day where I was having my hair braided, and they said, okay, I was able to bring him so that I could feed him when I needed to. So yeah, I felt very supported in that space.
That's awesome to hear. Like,
so
massively.
Yeah, definitely.
I really do appreciate that art industry. And when I say this, I guess I'm primarily focusing on the acting space and acting industry. I really am grateful that it feels like they're making every effort to accommodate or support you. So far, in my experience anyway. I guess I'm yet to have that job that's like, no, what are you talking about? Don't do this. But it is amazing. And pre having a kid, I knew I wanted to have kids. That's great. And I just knew it was going to work. It's going to have to work. There's just that's just it. But it's nice to be living in the reality where it is, and it feels quite seamless. And just a little bit less stressful, she says.
Yeah, I think I think it's just like case by case, and and I think it's to encourage other women to ask for what you need. Because I think I could have been really like, it's fine, I'll be fine, and not share my concerns. And then the stress is on me, and then I'm gonna break. But because I was like, I absolutely need to be able to I need to be able to have time. I said, I don't know what this looks like because I breastfeed on demand. I can't tell you what that looks like, but I would be needing to do that during the day. And they're like, okay, we don't know what that looks like either, so let's work together and figure it out.
Perfect.
So very good. Like, even like at times they'd be like, do you want us to get you some food? Do you want us? So sometimes I would be getting to work, having the stress of like, okay, I'm trying to have a shower, the baby's screaming, I've got to try and get somewhere. Like, there's definitely some times where it was like, it was hellish. There was one time I remember I couldn't get myself together to drive, to get myself ready, the baby ready, drive, drop him off, and then take the car to the station and get to work. So I was like, I need to get an Uber. But I couldn't figure out how to get the Uber to drop at my parents' house. So I literally was just like there with everything and just said, I need you to take me to my parents' house before I go to work. And he was like, it's not on the map, on the thing. You have to do it. I was like, I just cried at this man.
Oh, did you?
I was just like, I just need to get to work, please. It's only 5 minutes away. And you could just see him and just thinking, I can't not help this woman, but I also don't want to get in trouble.
Of course,
so he just kept saying
regulations.
So I was just like, I will give you cash, whatever you need me to do. Please help me. And he was so lovely. He did. I gave him, I don't remember what, 5 or 10 or whatever. I gave him the cash, and he kept making sure. He's like, this is not a tip. This is not. And I was like, however you want to take it or receive it. Yeah, exactly. Just help me get to work, because it's a lot. It's a lot. Man. So there's definitely. Like, I'm not trying to like rose tint the whole thing. It was definitely hard. You know, trying to get anywhere on time, let alone a theatre space where we all know that you need to be an hour early than a minute late in a rehearsal space.
I definitely don't think you've made it sound rose tinted. I think what I really love about this podcast is just that every experience is different. Everyone's support system is different. Everyone's stories are different. So I think the fact that you're able to share honestly what your experience is like, this is just what happened for you and what it was like at that time. So I really value the honesty, and I think don't ever feel as though you're making it sound nicer or better than it is, because I know we live in a space where life is for the gram and stuff, and things can look very perfect, which I know can then directly impact people and make them feel really shitty. But I think it's important to talk about the positives and talk about the things that can be easy, because I have to say, in this space, in this, I guess, pregnancy, pre-pregnancy, pregnancy and post-pregnancy space, I think we can really talk and highlight the negatives. And if you didn't have a horrible birth story, if you talk about a nice one or a slightly easier one, then sometimes there can be a weird energy. I remember I was pregnant, out with friends. I went to see a friend's play, and people were kind of asking, how are things going? And my pregnancy, I definitely had moments where things were a challenge, but for the most of it, for me, it was pretty chill. It was pretty easy, which was nice. And I remember just sort of really talking about that, and not even really sort of at that point, I don't think I made it a point to be very sort of vocal about it. But there are a few, was it negative Nancy's is what we're going to go for at this time of day, who were just like, oh my God, Rachel had perfect pregnancy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, whoa. That was crazy to hear from another woman who has had a kid. She was going through whatever she was going through, but it was just, I almost couldn't believe that was uttered. And I think after that point, I made sure that if I've got anything to say about my pregnancy and it's positive, I'm saying it with my whole chest, and I don't care what anyone's got to say, because I think we can really sit in a space of like, oh yeah, it's fine. Oh no, this is terrible. And everyone sort of seems to find that solidarity in, oh my gosh, it was hellish. Yeah. And it's like, you know what? Collective sometimes, trauma. Listen, if you had a great time or a great day, or if you had an orgasm in your bloody birth, then you did. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I really, really support the positive, share the positive, tell us everything that's positive, as long as it's honest. That's why I'm going with that. Okay, well,
I definitely think mindset has a lot to do with it, because I think, as you say, it's, I don't know, sometimes I wonder what, what people think beforehand. Like, in terms of like it's hard. And hard, it isn't always bad. And I think we've got to a place where everyone's, as soon as something's hard, people think that means it's bad.
In this instance, do you mean child rearing, or do you mean the pregnancy side of it?
I think all of it.
Okay.
I think all of it, because I think, challenges are going to happen, and that doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah. That's true.
And I think because as soon as someone finds themselves going through something that is challenging, then it's like, oh, this is terrible. And it's like, what else did you think
it was gonna be?
That's like, true. And so maybe because I'm kind of like, I know that tough doesn't always mean bad.
Yeah.
That it doesn't necessarily have a negative effect.
Yeah.
Because I equally had a great pregnancy, I would say. Like, obviously there was a few moments of like, okay, this is painful, I need to maybe go and get checked out. I had an overnight stay, but in the main I was just like, my body is made for this. I have to trust this. I have to trust my body. I'm going to work out. I'm going to keep gigging. I'm just going to do me, and my body will tell me when it's too much. Like, in terms of my body now wants to protect this being, so but before I can cause any damage, my body will let me know that you need to stop.
Precisely.
So I kind of really trusted that, because I was just very aware of how immediate it felt that everyone else, in terms of even some of the medical jargon, was basically making you feel like you can't trust yourself, and suddenly you have to trust a professional. And I was like, I get that you may have been part of 100 births before, but you don't know my body more than I know myself. So I'm going to trust that, and then when I need some support, I'll come to you. And I feel like that's kind of helped me all the way through, because even with parenting, I think with your child, it's like I understand, and it's not that I don't look to like parenting books or things online when I'm like, okay, what does this look like for other people? Let me just see how that compares to what I think I'm going to go ahead and do. But I still always come back to what I think is the right thing to do, especially when it comes to, bringing up my son now. It's like, he is a person, and how can I be the best person to help him find out who he is and support him on that journey, rather than, oh, this is what I think, he must do these things. It's like, it might not work for his personality. So there's definitely some things where I'm just like, well, I know that's not going to work for him.
Yeah. Have you always known you wanted to be a mum?
Yes.
Okay. End of question. When did you first know? Why as well? Did you know you wanted to be a mum? Why did you want to be a mum?
I'm the eldest of 4.
Yeah.
So when my baby sister, who is clearly not a baby, she's a big woman in her 30s, mother of 2, I just knew then. So I was 8 when she was born, and I was used to act like she was my baby. So I always knew that I wanted to do this one day. And yeah, so I've always known. I've always known. And I guess when you're an elder sibling, especially the firstborn girl in, I don't know if it's every culture, but definitely in the Ghanaian culture, there's a part of that that's kind of trained in you, like, oh, you're the oldest, you know, all that kind of stuff. So there's part of it that's training, nature, nurture. But I've always known, and I've always wanted to be a mum. I've always fulfilled that motherly role with like cousins' children, as I say, siblings, and now I've got 4 nephews, so it's always been part of, a part of my personality.
Yeah,
I guess
it's weird. I know you just said you've got 4 nephews, but for some reason I thought it was more. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because I'm including your kid in the mix as well.
Maybe because I've got cousins' kids that, as when they were little, I probably spoke about them as if they were mine as well. Like,
Weird. I don't know. I thought there was more. I really don't. Anyway, random thought there. I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, but what was your journey through pregnancy like?
It was very... Yeah, it was... I don't want to say easy, but it was. Like, okay. We decided we wanted to try. Cool. Fell pregnant straight away.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I was in the middle of Insanity.
Oh, yes. I remember.
About 7 or 8 weeks in, and I was like, okay. My plan was Hot Girl Summer. We were coming to be very rude on the Instagram.
So for those of you who don't know, Insanity is a workout challenge, which is insane, as the name says. And what is it? It's on like a DVD, or it's on online.
Some sort of online.
And you follow the program. What is it? Is it 6 days on, 1 day, one rest day, 6 days on, right? And each session is about 45 minutes. But it's intense from
the
start to
warm-up
finish.
in itself, you're just like, why am I doing this?
Exactly. No. Oh my gosh. That's literally how I feel when I would do it.
You're just like, I'm still warming up. We're 20 minutes in. Leave me alone. Ooh, but I started and I was definitely going to finish. So I think it was about 9 weeks in. I think it's like a 12-week program.
I was about to ask you. I can't remember how long it's for. Yeah, maybe 12 weeks.
I feel like it's 12 weeks. I was definitely... over halfway when I found out that I was pregnant, and I was like, I'm not doing this again. But I must finish. So I got in touch with a friend of mine who's a doctor but also a nutritionist and knows a lot about health. I said, can I continue this? And he was like, there's literally nothing you can do to cause damage. So continue.
As you were.
And so I finished it. I finished the Insanity. I remember the last day I finished it, I was like crying, and my partner came in the room and was just like, are you okay? I was like, I did it. I'm fucking doing it. He was like, okay. Because there was definitely some days where I cried during the workout, just like, I can't do this, but I have to finish it.
And I completely understand that, because you've committed to it. You're there every morning or whenever it is, and you're powering through. So it's kind of like, to stop feels like a waste. I don't know if you feel that way. Yeah. So it's just like, you have to see it through. And there are some days where you absolutely fucking hate it, because I'm just like, I could be in my bed. I tend to do my workouts in the morning whenever I was doing anything like that. Mm-hmm. And I could have had that extra hour in bed or whatever else. And when it's cold out here in these streets, in these UK streets, there's nothing more appealing than your bed or a blanket. So to be jumping up and down in your living room is just not ideal.
It's not ideal.
Not ideal.
It's not.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
So I finished Insanity, and I chilled for like a few weeks, and I wanted to. At this time, we were started to be allowed to go back into the gym, but I wasn't. It was a bit like, oh, should I go? I was like, I'll go with mask, I'll go with gloves, and that's like kind of like, still wondering.
Gosh, what a time! Sorry, you're just really taking me back to what things were like just coming out of the pandemic, and obviously were you quite with you being in the early stages of your pregnancy at that point? Were you quite? I guess maybe you were just starting to touch upon it, but were you quite apprehensive about training with this all around you, like if you're in the gym, I get you can wear a mask, but after a while it's really freaking irritating. I found that. So the mask could come off.
Oh yeah, I didn't bother training with a mask on. Yeah. I didn't. It was just the gloves, and I was just very fastidious with washing of hands.
Yeah.
Because I think there was someone else who gave me statistics that, you know, the healthiest people were going to the gym ultimately. So it wasn't necessarily I was going to catch COVID from the gym, and thankfully I didn't. So I just thought if I just keep being fastidious with hand washing, I mean, you know, it is what it is. We just hope and pray and be clean, you know? What can we do? So I didn't want to feel restricted. I wasn't really going anywhere because work wasn't really happening. So it was a case of like, this is also like, I got a book online about pregnant athletes and how they train, just to kind of, you know, because I thought I want to be safe. I don't want to be, you know, stupid about this. Yeah. So I had a book that I was following as well after I finished Insanity, because I just thought because every time people were questioning me about going to the gym, I said,
did you get that a lot?
Yeah. I was like, I said, it's called labor for a reason. Like, this is the hardest thing my body's going to have to do. Harder than Insanity. The hardest thing my body's going to have to do. I can't just be sitting here with my feet up and, you know, eating crisps. I've got to kind of like be as healthy as I can to kind of create the best environment for the child whilst it's growing. And also I need to be at my physical fitness so that I can give birth to this baby and then continue on after I've given birth. Yeah. At least that was my thought.
No, exactly. And I know everybody's sort of situation is different, and if you're not able to train or work out, that's entirely down to you. But I know for those who weren't able to do that, some people I know are very good on like their walks or whatever kind of hike that you might do, or just different types of exercise. But I agree, like it's as you said, it's called labor for a reason. Yeah. For sure, so
I mean, let's be real. There's no personal best will be happening in that time, none. So you know, it was the act of keeping active. So yes, definitely going for nice walks. I used to go walks with my dad or like, you know, family or you know, my partner, but it wasn't about being the best. It was just about keeping moving for me. And because I'd, you know, especially with the pandemic, I was doing a lot of working out at that time. So my body was already used to it. And so I'd kind of been very intentional, knowing that, okay, in the next how many years I wanted to have a baby. I wanted to be at my physical best for as long as I could before that happened. And then have since read that that's actually really good. That's the best thing you can do for your baby. So it was all intentional to keep it going. And I think that just helped me. I mean, there was definitely, you know, had sciatica and all the other things that you have. And so it wasn't like it was a walk in the park. Yeah. But it was important to me to just, for myself, to feel like I had given myself the best. Like I was thinking beyond giving birth. I was thinking on the other side of it, you need to have, you know, I'll be picking this baby up all the time. Yeah. So let me have some strength. Let me have some ability to do all of those things.
Was it difficult to? So I was just about to go into birth and choices, but actually before that, how did all of that impact creativity, positively or negatively? I know we're also coming at that time for you. We're coming out of the pandemic, so we're sort of seeing what the world looks like now, right? And our industry, theatre-wise, things are quiet. Are the jobs coming back? Are they not? Whatever else. How did that impact you creatively?
I think, I mean, because of the pandemic, it was just like, well, boy.
Shrug. Pick up my tea.
Is it going to happen? Yeah. So I guess I'm just trying to think. Maybe that's another reason why fitness took over for me, because it was like, I have some routine. If I'm like, okay, I'm going to do some yoga, then I'm going to go for a walk, and I'm going to go do, like, I had something I could focus on. Yeah. Because work wasn't there. Like I had a few like online Zoom kind of performance kind of things going on. And I'm just trying to think. Work wasn't there. So I guess it was just, okay, what does this look like? How am I gonna, you know, I did actually start a new business during that time. I started making like Afro-centric furniture and like soft furnishing type of things. Yeah. So I sort of was keeping myself creatively busy by doing other little bits. Okay. And, you know, did a whole bunch of like Christmas wreaths for like.
Yes, I remember.
And packaged them off around the country, and I think even one international one. So, so I kept busy. Yeah. Just because, you know, and I was like.
But that was pandemic sort of inspired. Not. I'm gonna call it pandemic inspired, right?
Yeah. For sure. It was definitely that because, you know, I couldn't perform. Well, he was, you know, came up with a few ideas of what I could do, like, you know, but it wasn't. But nothing that, because it slowly then started opening up. It was like, okay, well, let's just see what that looks like. Yeah. But I think I also gave myself a period of mourning for, okay, my life won't look like this anymore. Yeah. And that's okay. So I was conscious about that because I thought, let me do this now rather than do it. I mean, I suppose the pandemic forced that for a lot of us anyway. So, so yeah, I was very much like, okay, who am I without all of this stuff? Yeah. So
big thoughts and big questions.
Yeah. And I thought, well, do you know what? We'll see. And it, obviously now things have opened up and we're back to this. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, masks. Oh gosh, all of this. We can now look at it as in like, wasn't that a crazy time? Yeah. But at that time, it was like,
my God.
Yeah.
It's like, I think I remember myself. I do all the training and stuff. What was frustrating is train, Insanity. What was the other one? We did Insanity, but we did
T25.
Thank you very much. T25. That's the one that we did more, I think, or most even. But I would do all of that and then shower and then, back on my sofa. And it's like, that's just life. Great. I found myself I did a lot of writing during that time. So I set a challenge for myself and it was very much focused around short films and a play. So that was my stuff. But again, last me back sitting down on my butt. So it was like, I sweat and then I sit. Sweat and sit. Very sexy. Anywho, what were your birth choices like? Do you remember? Was that easy to do? Did you get the support that you needed to?
Yeah. I mean, again, I was very kind of adamant. I was like, I will not be induced. I will not.
No, thank you.
I was very adamant about that. Like I went into hyper like research mode. I was like, okay, here we are working out. I know my age. Yep. Ethnicity and the fact that I'm, you know, at least at that time was muscle dense. So I was just like, don't talk to me about BMI. So the very first what do you call it? Not interview, what's it called? Consultation with the midwife. Yeah. She was very good with me.
Nice. Perfect.
But I was like, she was looking through and she was going, hang on, it says here. And then she was like looking at the age and just sort of looking at me confused. I was like, yeah, that's right. That's how old I am. And then she's like, okay. So that took my risk factor up.
Lovely.
And Thanks. Then she took my weight. And then that took my risk factor up again. I was like, listen. I said, why are we using BMI as a marker? Yeah. And then that's just sort of, so I came with my facts. I said, this like antiquated, racist, sexist system that we use that was only meant to ever be used for like Belgian men in like the 1980s, not even 1980s, like 80, I haven't got the facts with me today, but good 100 years Google. At least, like Belgian men. Yeah, it wasn't even, it's only meant to be used across like massive amounts of population, never as individuals. Yeah. And so I think one of the questions they ask you is like, how do you feel about your pregnancy? I'm like, the only thing that's making me feel nervous about this pregnancy is giving birth in the system. And at that time, the Black Maternity Report had just come out, so I was bringing her those facts, and she just was very good. And she said, "Well, yes, the system, you know, is institutionally racist, but you know, we're working very hard at this hospital, and you know, we do listen. So do bring your concerns and do speak up and tell us, you know." She was open. She didn't gaslight me. She didn't try and act as if, oh no, I don't know what you're talking about. She owned it completely and reassured me that, you know, she was very, you know, they're very aware of it, but within their department, they're doing their best they can to kind of not, you know, add to the statistics. So, yeah. So that was good because I felt like, I can speak my mind rather than feeling like, oh, I can't say anything.
So, that's really, really great to hear. And just to let you know, you were relatively accurate with you know, the how and the why of BMI. So early 19th century, and Belgium, correct. Yeah. And yes, to use across like as a way of measuring the population rather than individuals. It's great that you highlighted that. I remember with us, there was a concern for me when I was pregnant that my baby was too small, or they were, I guess it was size-wise too small. And after my first scan, I think it got escalated to like maybe the head of the division. So it was crazy. He was doing the scan. So the obstetrician is working away. He's got his assistant in the room, etc. Then he's like, wait, why is she here? And I'm like, sorry, this is not what a pregnant woman needs to hear. Belly exposed, lying on the table. What do you mean, why is she here? And so they said, okay, the size of the baby, there's some concern about that. And he's like, the baby's perfectly fine. That's the right size for the baby, for who she is at this time. And pre that appointment, my partner and I were just talking about things like BMI and measurements that are being used, and how much of that applies to people of different ethnicities and your age and all that kinds of stuff. So my partner ended up asking the doctor like the same question: is there any consideration, or is there any what's the thinking behind these measurements that are used? Because does it affect someone or people from our ethnicity? And it was really funny because the doc was like, he loved the question, and you can see that he's a real geek out here in these streets. And he was like, oh my gosh, amazing question. And then he kind of went into the fact that there are stats that are used, but it's for a particular group of people. For the stats or the measurements that are being used are for white women from this era, or for women from Europe. But if you were to put these measurements or stats against a woman, say from China, or a woman from India, a woman from Ghana, a woman from Nigeria, these things it's not gonna be a perfect fit. So you've got to take into account people's socioeconomic standards, how they eat, how they grew up, where they live. So certain things are just not going to apply to people, but people are working on newer, more diverse, more up-to-date methodology and research and things like that, so it can be more applicable to people when they come into the appointments. So where I gave birth, it was at Homerton Hospital, and to me, team, I felt like they were very thorough, and they made sure that they checked every I and crossed every T, and whatever they needed to do, they did it, which made me feel way more comfortable, because I definitely had the stats in my head where women of color, or black women in particular, we are 4 times more likely to encounter.
It was 5 at one point.
Mate. So that was very present in my head. It wasn't an energy I was trying to bring or introduce into my space, but I wanted to make sure that I knew whatever I needed to know, I knew it. And if I needed to argue my point or have my day in court in whatever consultation, I did. So that was definitely met really well. I think there was the odd time that there was some opposition to, I didn't want to be induced, and there was a pressure to be induced for sure. I got talked into it at one point, but I almost felt like I agreed to it to end the conversation with the intention of, I'm leaving this room, tomorrow I'm cancelling the appointment, which took forever to do. But in the process of trying to cancel my induction date, I definitely had a nutritionist speak to me and say, well, you know that you run the risk of your baby dying. And it was like I had to stand there with my chest and be like, yes, just because I'm making this choice, I don't want to be induced. And the reason why that all came up for me was because I ended up getting gestational diabetes at like, say, week 37, which was like, oh my gosh, I'm at the end, like how can this happen? But it really highlighted or rearranged my relationship with what I eat, how I eat, and when I eat it, just to make sure, again, you want to be here for as long as you can, for yourself, for your kid, your family, your partners, etc. So whatever you need to do to make sure you can do that, you're gonna. So that was a really, really good journey in terms of understanding food better and nutrition better. But to sort of have that moment where you're speaking to the professionals who are meant to, they're the ones who know what's what in this scenario, or that's at least what we've been conditioned to think. So I'm here telling you, no, I don't want to do this, and why, with my Google research or talking to other people, stats and facts, and you're here with your degrees, and do you mean and just like, because you're I guess people in that space are often seen as people of authority, or at least that's how it is in my head, I guess. So for me to tell you no and why, like, I have to make sure I can back it and be comfortable doing so. So the scaremongering bit, I was like, that's not cool. But I'm also aware, slight tangent, I don't think a younger doctor would have said what that person has said to me. So I'm aware of little things like that. But still, it was good practice. Like, I'm feeling hot, but yes, I'm doing this and you can't stop me. So that was empowering and very scary at the same time. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's just so much of that. And I think that's why I was saying that from the beginning of, it's like, okay, you're pregnant. Now let everybody else deal with it for you.
Yeah.
Or you just lie down for 9 months, eat whatever you want.
Nope.
It's like, no, boo. So I think, like, during my time, whilst I was pregnant, the black, what's he called it? Maternity report came out with the stats, and then there was that documentary with Rochelle Humes came out as well.
I think I watched it. Ooh, can't remember.
Yeah, I was a bit like, should I watch this? Should I not? So I watched that. I watched that, and I was like, okay. And then the consultation. Like, I've never been like this stage of my life. I'm so much more political than I've ever been.
Yeah.
So I didn't. So when emotion comes up, they do something called a consultation, and you as a public, someone from the public, you can actually go there and watch it. And I think you can. I don't know if this is a COVID thing or if it's always been this way, but you can watch it online. So I was like, let me watch, and was waiting for them to bring up the what they call what do they call it? So it's a consultation of a recommendation that if you were over 36 and if you were over 38 weeks pregnant, you would, if you go over 38 weeks, then automatically as a black and brown woman, you would be offered, or it would be suggested, aka it's now policy to have an induction. I was like,
no,
listen, me and my mouth is not happening to me. But for other women behind after me who won't speak up, my mouth will move.
Yeah.
So I signed up for this consultation, and they kind of didn't talk about it. So I basically was like typed in a question and said, and so at the end they take questions, and it was very kind of flippantly like, oh yeah, it hasn't, her consultation hasn't gone through, next thing. And I was just thinking, no, because so I was like sending this to everyone, just like, sign this. I
didn't realise that this was going on in the background.
Yeah.
For you, with what you
so
just
this
described.
was all happening. So I was getting everyone to sign it, and there was one person who they are a pharmacist. And I felt really gaslit by her, because it was like, oh no, it's just, what's the word they use? It's not it's just a recommendation. And I was like, and we all know how recommendations goes, as you explained. In a moment, someone's just going to be like, well, if you don't do this, your baby's going to die. So even though it's a recommendation, it becomes policy. It becomes a soft policy that before you know it, they've been doing that for 2 years, and that's what everyone is telling you to do. People don't know, like, since this happened, and people have said, oh, I had an induction, I didn't know. Like, you could have said no, but the fact that they didn't know they could have said no is the problem. Because if someone's saying it's just a suggestion, or it's it's a recommendation, before you know it, that's just what is done. So then you as a mother, you're just completely coerced into doing things that you're most vulnerable. And it's awful, because I think that's why the stats is like 2 in 3 women have a traumatic birth. And I was like, it's not going to be me. If it's not 2 in 3, it's 2 in 5. It's very high.
Still high.
It's high.
So even 2 out of 5 is too high.
And I was
1 out of
like,
5 is too high.
I was like, no, it's not going to be me. So I'm going to, because I think, again, when women are encouraged to make a birthing plan, it's not, I think you can't really go in this like, I want Miss Music to be played, I want this, and I want soft lighting. Fine. Put that down, but you need to understand the difference of, okay, if you have this kind of pain relief, that means you can't go be in the birthing centre. It means you're going to have to be in the birthing suite, and what that impact has for you. So it has to be very. But if you don't know these things, you can't ask for these things. So then, if you're thinking that, okay, I wanted a water birth, and you didn't understand that, but okay, by accepting you wanted to have, I don't know, Pitocin or whatever it is, that means you now can't have that. If you don't know that, then suddenly that could be a mark of trauma, because you suddenly feel like, well, it wasn't explained to me. And it's like, there isn't the time, it's all well and good us paying attention to having a baby shower, let's have a baby reveal, when we should be really talking about these very, very instrumental things. Nobody cares about, what balloons you had at your baby shower. You're going to care if you had to have an episiotomy and you didn't know you could say no to it or not.
Nice.
So we need to know about those things so we can advocate for ourselves.
And that is, I love that you said all of that, because I'm pretty sure somebody listening to this would have just learned something new, 150,000%. And it's true. I think there's such a focus to look at everything else other than the things that really matter, like the choices that you can make pre-birth, making sure your partner, or whoever your partner is, making sure that they're aware of these things so that they can advocate for you in the space when you are in the middle of contracting and you can't think about the T's and C's that you had put together for your birthing plan. But all of this stuff I didn't know until I found myself obviously pregnant, and I'm definitely that research geek similar to yourself, so looking at everything and anything that I need to look up. And for me, I subscribed to all things Positive Birthing Company and looked at, I think that was my introduction into that space, just understanding what the choices were. And she started her company and started all of this because she had a traumatic birth and she didn't know what she could and couldn't do. So that all happened, and then afterwards she's like, okay, cool, this is what I'm gonna do, and why, and I'm gonna make sure that I can share this with other women. So I had to quickly Google her name because I completely forgot who it was, but Siobhan Miller. So with her putting this together, it's such quick and easy videos to watch, and from there go on and do more research for what it is that you want to do. But I didn't understand the process of an induction until I watched what that was, and then further research. But once you start, depending on who you are and what your body's like, there's just more things can happen. You need more help as it goes on. It might not be the case for everyone, and I understand that some people may not have a choice but to be induced, or that might be what they choose to do, period. And that's fine. It's your choice. But similar to you, it's not something that I wanted. I wanted to give my body the best chance and opportunity for it to do what it's supposed to do. It's built for it. But it's true. If you're out here thinking about the gender reveal and the baby shower and whatever else, just take 10 seconds.
Just have a look, because like you said, like, we are in a very privileged and amazing position that we have medical advancement to support birth. Yeah, if it's needed. Yes, and I just think a lot of interventions are happening to make it easier for the shift, rather than how the mother's supposed to cope beyond the birth. Yeah, and so I don't want to take that away from anyone who's opted for it. If you've opted for it, that means you were hopefully you were informed as to what the risks were. Yeah. And I hope that it went well. But for me, it was a case of like, okay, you're offering these things without telling me what these things mean. So when I'm having a conversation and saying, okay, you're talking about induction, tell me about the drugs. Yeah. So what does that mean? Yep. How long's that in my system? If I want to breastfeed, how often, how does it impact the baby? And the question, you can see them question, okay, she's asking, it's like, I need to know. Yeah. And then after I kind of had the information that I needed and been like, okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're not being induced. Yeah. Then I had to work with my mum, because my mum and my partner were my birthing partners. So amazing. So I prepared my mum. I said, Mum, they might say this, but me, I'll be saying this.
I need you to support me.
Don't fight me. Support me. And she was very good. She was very good. I could see her sitting on her hands at times, looking at Tony, thinking. But she really respected my position on things, and only when it kind of felt a little bit scary for her would she kind of just look to Tony to then. Oh, Mom, really? Yeah, so she was very good, but I could see that she was probably worried, just thinking, this girl again. Yeah, but
this girl. In case you couldn't tell, we are of Ghanaian descent. Yes. So shout out to my Ghana folks. We know what our parents be like. We love them, but we
understand them too.
There we go.
So I had to prepare her. I just had to prepare her. I was like, I get that, there's so much, and rightly so, that the birth is about giving the birth to this child. Yeah. But it's like, it's still my experience also. I still, like, there's women who are 20, 30 years in, still traumatized by what went on when that child was born. So why not create a situation where maybe that trauma wasn't there in the first place, by allowing her journey to be thought of and protected and supported. Is not just about giving birth, because you still have to look after that child beyond that. And some people, the physical scars they've been left with has changed them, in terms of, like, I've heard some women who would just talk about, like, when they pee now, it kind of shoots in a different direction because of how they were stitched back up together, and it's things like that. It's like all the other things happening, like prolapses and all those different other things that happen. It's like it's a thing that physically and mentally changes you. So that should be thought about, because yes, we need, you have, as the mother, will have to look after this child. So how about we support women to be at their strongest, to be able to do such a big job, such a life-changing thing to do.
Life-changing, not 24/7 on never-ending, amazing, wonderful, challenging, difficult job. It's true.
So true. So I feel empowered because I owned my birth.
Yeah.
I stayed at home and laboured for as long as I could before I went into hospital. Yeah. And then I had a really great team to support me, and then he was born.
There we go.
So, but going back to those stats that you were talking about the whole time, because I've got quite a pronounced curve in my spine.
Mm-hmm. Hello.
It was like, you see, the measurements they're using, it's like, oh, the baby's massive. It's like, no, my belly's sticking out because my spine's curved.
Yeah.
And every day, so it got to a point where I think near the end I had to start saying, I'm not coming in for that scan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was like every 2 weeks. And it's like the practicality of like taking yourself up there. Is my partner going to take time off work? When we know the same thing's going to be told. They do what they call fungal growth. Mm-hmm. So if your spine's already like this, then the bump is on top of it. So as far as they're seeing, they're like, oh my gosh, the baby's massive. And it's like, if my stomach was like, if my back was straight, and there's not anything wrong with it, but if my back was more European, then the stomach would lie lower. Then I wouldn't have this so-called fungal height that you're screaming at this baby's the size of an elephant that's coming out. Cut to 2 years later, this child is still in the what do you call it? In the 25th percentile. He's still small. So all of this hype of like big baby, it's like no. So they do need to change these stats. Yeah. Because even when I went after, when they do your 8-week checks or whatever, it's 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I remember.
Oh my gosh, I've completely forgotten. I think 8 week. Or your 3-month one, 12 week.
Whichever one they check you and the baby afterwards. The doctor was
post. Let me see. Oh, mine was slightly different because of her weight loss. So I was being checked almost like every 2 days. It was great. I think it's like an 8-week.
I think it's 8
situation,
weeks,
and then maybe like another 10 to 12 week one as well.
I think the immediate one is 6 to 8 weeks, because of I think the baby has a 6 week, you have an 8 week. But anyway, in my case, we just put it together. COVID come one time.
Oh yeah, of course.
So so we went in and she was talking BMI, and I said my same thing about BMI, and then she was trying to gaslight me, and she goes, anyway, in India we have our own BMI. I was like, you see? So you know that the BMI is ridiculous. So you have a different system that you use in your country. Yeah. So when I'm calling out the one we're using here that you're coming to try and shame me that I need to start looking at weight loss already, you're coming to tell me you use a different system. Why is that?
My friend.
Why is that?
Just take a second to hear what you're saying.
Exactly.
Gaslighting is fun.
And when it comes from authority, it's that thing of that, like you say, you've got degrees, you've got this, and I don't suffer fools. So I'm just like, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. However, there's this. But yeah, I man, it's definitely the whole process of, I guess, pregnancy and mothering. I think it teaches you and it forces you to find your voice as best as you can, to sort of really stand up for yourself, stand up for what you want, stand up for your child. I think it's amazing when you've got friends, family, co-workers, other peers who are there to support you and will stand for you. But there's something to be said at being able to find that voice and be unapologetic about it. Because if you're not careful, it's very easy for you to get dismissed or just get swept aside. And it could come from someone who's well-intentioned, but they've got more kids than you, so they think X, Y, and Z. Or someone who, again, we've touched on this a bit, like someone in a medical space, and they have this information or this stat, so you get swept aside. So it's very important just to know what you want, know what your thoughts are, ask for help as and when you need to, and don't be afraid to do that either. But do your best to kind of stand on what it is that you're saying, own your truth, and use your voice. Like there's lots of knowledge and there's lots of advice that people will happily give you, and it's wonderful and it's beautiful and it's supportive, etc. But just try and know what you want as much as you can, because it's just easy to get swept aside. Like I'm having to find that voice. The first 3 months of life with Zena. I think it was she was 3 months. We went to Barbados, and it was in that space that I had to really understand what it meant to be like, no, don't touch my baby, or no, you can't hold her, or no, you can't take a picture, because people went nuts. And I guess at the time that we went, it was kind of peak season, and I think
How old is she then?
3 months. So yeah, coming up to 4, but definitely more on the 3 month side. And everyone there was older, so it was definitely a space where a lot of people, their kids had left, or now they've got grandkids that they see every so often, whatever else. So people were very excited to see a baby, which was beautiful. But I don't know you. Why are you touching my kid's skin or her hands, or trying to kiss her hands, or trying to take? We had this couple who wanted to take a picture of her, and they were adamant. There was this older African American couple, very friendly, very nice. Oh my gosh, the kids have left. This is whatever else. Blah blah blah. Lovely. Can we take a picture of her? Me and my partner, me and Max, look at each other like, why? And then we're quiet. So I think maybe on the Brit side, the silence is already. If you're in the UK, the silence, people just leave it at that. But they were like, oh no, like we want to take a picture. And Max was like, I think it's up to mum on this one. I was like, oh man, why do I have to be the one to answer the question? I wish he would just say no. And I was like, no. Oh, but please, we really want to. I said, oh, I understand that, but no, because like, where is it gonna go? Oh, we just want to take a picture of her. She's so lovely. She's so cute. Please, can we take a picture? This guy was begging, and it wasn't even his wife came later, and she was more like, oh my gosh, amazing, congratulations, chat. Off they went off with their evening, so they left together at that point. But until she got there, this guy was literally begging, phone out, begging to take a picture. And I was like, holy fuck, how do you even get out of it? It was weird. I kind of acquiesced to it, and I think it wasn't a good, clear shot of her, so I was grateful to be able to do that. But it was very bizarre to find myself in a space where I'm having to, why am I fighting with you to not take a picture of my kids? Like, why? So that was definitely my training ground of trying to find my voice, and when I say no, it means no. I still have moments where people really are out here trying to ignore you, and I'm like, do you know what? Okay, cool, ignore me. But this mum rage, which has developed since having a kid, is not a joke, because I will fight you, and I don't care who you are. So I had a guest on here a little while ago, Annabelle, and she was like, she heard and she listened, and she just put it quite nicely together. Just try and exercise patience. It's like, I get it. I do. But sometimes the rage is just, it is fierce and it is quick and it's unapologetic. So, yeah, I'm very sorry to any friends that I might lose in the coming years, but I love you. Bye. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's true. It's like, even today, so my son went football and there's
wow.
Yes, baby ballers.
Look at him.
I know. But there's this one child, and the child may have some struggles.
Okay.
But the mum doesn't support the child.
Yeah.
So he like there's been a few instances where he's been quite he doesn't understand his own strength, or he's not being shown that you don't push other children, you don't throw balls at other children.
I'm not looking forward to that phase. Go on.
The first time it happened, I was in such shock that I didn't know how to handle it, because
that happens sometimes.
Yeah,
you're just like
because I can't.
What do I do? Yeah.
I can't, I wouldn't touch a child, but I would slap the mum. It's like, if you know your child is doing this, then you need to be on your child. Don't let somebody else have to deal with that. So the first time it happened, he at the end of the lesson, they let all the kids kick a goal.
Okay.
And so you can see your child going up when it's my child's turn.
Okay.
You should already be there. So that he didn't understand as to why he wasn't having or wanted a second go.
Yeah.
So my son kicked the ball, and he came and hit my child. And luckily it wasn't an actual throwdown, because I don't know how I would have handled it. But it was still shocking. My child cried, and she's like, oh, sorry. And that was it. But that's been happening consistently. She's doing it to somebody else's child.
Okay.
It happened today, and I wasn't there. My partner was there. He said he just was like, oi! And then she did the same. Sorry. Because can you, you going to manage your child or something? And she's like, oh, sorry. Because I've been hearing sorry for the past few weeks. I was just I said, it's only God that I wasn't there today. Because I'm not sure if I would have been here today, Rachel. I would have just been like, no.
I'm not ready for that time. I'm not ready for that space. I hope to be. I don't know how I'm going to handle that space. What you... Sorry, why am I even getting into character? I'm ready.
I don't know.
I don't know how to... Because it's true, you can't go and discipline someone else's kid. Cool. But what am I going to be doing to the parent? And also, my kid is going to be looking at me to how I'm handling this whole situation. I'm not ready for that just yet. So I hope to grow into that space. Thankfully, she's only one. I've got a whole year, maybe 6 months.
I mean, as soon as you start putting her into groups, and that's the thing. It's the thing of like, okay, so you can't really, you can, police or like control the space that you put your child in to a certain point. But then when they start school or the groups or those kind of things, and you're just like, actually can't really control this aspect of it. And how do I control that? So stay tuned, because it's like, wow, okay. Yeah. Okay. How this is an interesting space.
Right now, Zena's in sensory play. So she's not necessarily the oldest kid there, but she's definitely the most social kid, and she's very friendly, and she wants to go and do stuff. So any kid that she sees walking, Jesus, tongue twister, she's okay, how are they doing that? I want to understand it. So she's taken a few steps since her birthday, but she hasn't done any more. But we're now having to sort of watch them negotiate with each other and take things from each other and see how they kind of react to that. And the first few times it happened to her, again, she's quite a chill kid, so it happened and lost interest and she went off to the next thing, whatever. But now that she's getting older, she's definitely like, no, I'm fighting for my toy or fighting for this. So watching that happen, I'm a little bit tense because I'm not quite sure what she's going to do. I'm also incredibly proud because push that kid over, do it. But I'm proud that she's learning to stand her ground. And even when she comes across another kid who's doing the same, it's, again, incredible watching how they sort of figure that space out. They both lose interest in stuff very quickly, which is very funny. But for her to get older and to have another kid who might be maybe just more confident physically or whatever else, I'm not sure how oh my gosh, I don't know. I just don't know what I'm going to do.
I think it's just like just giving space. Like, I suppose maybe like, getting them to get, like, I think Jacob having 4. Yeah. He's got 3 older cousins and 1 younger one.
Which is awesome, I think.
So we kind of just let them figure it out.
It's a great training ground, a great learning
definitely.
space.
So he can hold his ground. He's learning to, like, he understands, even though Khalil, his youngest cousin, they're almost the same size, I would say. Because Khalil's quite a solid child. Yeah. So they're very similar size. He's had an understanding that he's younger than him, and so he wants to kind of cuddle and look after him. Yeah. But you can see he also wants to be like his bigger cousins. Yeah. So like, even he's really pushing me to potty train him, and I'm just like, okay, we're just trying to navigate that space. I'm just like, I've got 1 more week of this tour. I'll be at home with you, and then we can do this. But when I'm at home, he'll be like, I want to go to toilets. It's like, okay, really? Do you really need to go? But because he's indicating for me that he wants to do it, so I'm just like encouraging him as much as I can, whilst I'm really responding to his cues. But I feel like with these children, it's a case of, in terms of, you were talking about Zena, like, how's she going to handle those spaces? It's just a case of it's how you going to handle it, because she will find her way. But it's that thing of like trying not to kind of getting involved or trying to do it for her and just being like, okay, just waiting until she'll look to you and she'll be looking at you like, is this okay? Is this okay? And you have to just kind of let her figure it out, because that's how she's going to stand her ground in the world. Because I really think that our job as parents is to kind of make these small people as self-sufficient to take space for themselves 100%. When we're not there.
100%. I couldn't agree with that more at all. Creatively speaking, how has motherhood impacted that for you?
I think it's made me hyper organized.
Nice.
Because if I'm going to be somewhere, I always have to start with, where's this child? Work back. Yeah. Okay, so if I've got to take him to my parents, what time do I have to leave to make that happen? Do I have to do the... So I'm always kind of figuring out what the day looks like in order for me to get to where I need to get to for like 11:30. Yeah. So it's like, it's constantly that. It's like, what does this look like? How can I make that work? It's also made me prioritize. So sometimes some things come up and just like, if it's not worth the hassle of me having to pack this bag for this child, I'm not going. I'm not. So it makes you just whittle things down, because it's like, it's almost like when I'm thinking about a gig, it's like, in my mind, does the fee cover the stress to get the child to where the childcare is?
Yep.
If it's a no, I will stay in my house.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. So it has made those kind of decisions for me. And again, as I say, I'm with the village support that I have, it does make it easier for me to be able to say yes to things. So I haven't had to turn too many things away.
Nice. That's really good.
But I can still be choosy because I have to be like, is it really worth it?
Yeah. For me, my thing is every job now, it's if it's going to take me away from my kid, is it worth it? Is that can I reconcile that time and be happy with that? Yeah. And if it isn't, then I'm not gonna do it. Yeah. Just not.
So after the play I did, I just took the rest of the time off. I mean, in my head, I say I take the rest of the time off. I mean, I even said to one of my good friends, Makeda, I was like, Makeda. Oh yeah, the first year I feel like I just chilled that first year. It's like, chilled where?
You forgot the whole play you were doing, the rehearsals.
The play, the rehearsals, the gigs. It's only when I do my tax return, I was like, hey, I was busy. But luckily, because it was just like a day here, a day there, it didn't really feel like I was away from him. Yeah. So I didn't feel it as much as I think if I was in the theatre. This year, so I almost took a year off, I think, after that. I took a year off from theatre. Yeah. Okay. But I was gigging. Exactly. I was gigging and
different thing, isn't it?
So at least with gigging, you're coming back it's like, okay, it's the evening, I'm gone. Or if it's a bit further, from the afternoon to like middle of the night.
Has motherhood made you more creative? Has it unlocked something? It might not have.
I think I've always been so creative that I
have to agree with that for sure.
That for me, it's just, I suppose it comes out slightly different. Like I've written a series of poems, so I'm an author now.
Fabulous.
And that was just me looking for a space to kind of, I guess document or write about my experiences of pregnancy and early motherhood. So I guess in some ways, like I can't wait to the phase where I can like do creative projects with Jacob. I'm like, I can't wait.
You are definitely going to be that mum, 110%.
She's me, 100%. I am her. Yes, and I can't wait. And again, like you were saying about being unapologetic, I'm like, yes, he will be doing all like the fancy dress things, and he will be like when they send the first homework, it's like, can you make? It's like, yes,
we can, and we shall.
We can, we shall. And the next time I can face a party, which will probably be 5, it's going to be the best. Yeah, because I just can't wait to do all of the things.
Amazing. I was gonna ask you, and I've asked everyone this question because everyone has done this without fail. I was gonna ask you, what new project did you start after you had a kid? But I think you touched on it with the book of poetry, the book of poems.
Yes, I do the book of poems. I was writing songs. Like I think during the pandemic, one of the things I'd started doing was like learning to produce. So I was still very loosely, because we didn't have time, but more writing, I think. But the poems, I think, was the first thing that I would say was
what's it called? Where can people find it? Tell us a bit about
it's called The Newborn Streets, and you can find it on Amazon. Barnes and Noble, but I think that's more of an American kind of site. So yes, I think it was just somewhere I could just make it my voice, because I don't know what your experience was, but I think in the kind of pregnancy new mum space, it's still very different to whiteness. So you want to get I wanted to get a pregnancy journal, and it's like a white woman on there. You wanted to get those little things, and so I was just like, there isn't anywhere that I feel like it's my space, or saying, So I didn't write it necessarily for Black women. I wrote it for myself, and hopefully, if anybody, it's literally my experience. Things like, how hard I found breastfeeding. I just didn't at all realize. In my head, it was like, oh yeah, of course our breastfeed is fine, and I had no idea what that was.
Hey. It's funny. I feel like there's going to be a breastfeeding pod segment with many a guest, and you're very welcome to come back on it again, because it is not at all what you think it is. Similar to you, the thing is, based on stories, I knew that I was like, I don't think it's going to be what I think it is. I think it's going to be difficult. I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be, and I didn't realize how much of it was me. Oh yeah, sure, I'll breastfeed. It'll work. Excuse me, what now? What latch? What this? What position? This? There's so much to think about, and just remembering that your baby is also trying to figure this out for the first time too, with you, right? Exactly. And they've gone from eating in a very different way to now having to relearn or just learn a whole new process, as are you. And now you haven't slept for however long, and then you've got to feed them every 2-3 hours, whatever it is, and then make sure you've washed this up and sterilized this and make sure you've had sleep and make sure you've eaten. And it's like, but wait, what? This is all for breastfeeding. I haven't even thought about a shower or making food.
How many hours? You're just like... And in between, so you're like, if it's taking me, because I think I would definitely had like an hour and a half, like breastfeeding a child for baby an hour and a half, breastfeeding baby every 2 hours. So when do I breathe? Please, when? You say eat, you say sleep when the baby is sleeping. I'm still breastfeeding. My sister would call me. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, breastfeeding. She's like, "But what are you doing?" I said, "Yes." We are both surprised.
Oh my God. Honestly, it is a whole different beast. It's a whole different world. If you're able to do it, all the high fives. I couldn't applaud and commend you the most. And if it's not part of your journey, it isn't part of your journey, and that's also fine. It's just breastfeeding it's a whole different chapter. Honestly, it's just I'm currently clutching my head in my hands, guys. That's what it is. Is it
still breastfeeding?
I'm still breastfeeding. We're going away for a month at the end of December for all of January. When we come back, I'm going to stop breastfeeding. I just wanted to have that as a food option for her.
Fantastic.
So we're going to Thailand. She's going to be absolutely fine in Thailand. We're going to eat all the food, I know, but just in case she might not take certain stuff.
We finished
about breastfeeding
8 weeks ago, I think.
Whatever book and whatever thing that you did, I want to know.
I don't know
if I can get to 2. I was impressed that you got to 2. The teeth, there's so many little teeth. I'm currently battling 4 teeth. My nipples, I can't do it.
My friend, it's a lot. Like, it's wonderful. It's amazing. Yeah. Like, because I was adamant. I was like, I wasn't adamant. At first, I was like, if we get to 6 months, we've done it. And then it was just month by month. And I was like, okay, we're still in these streets. Okay, let's keep going. I was like, got to his birthday. And I was like, what am I going to do? Happy birthday. no more. So let's just see. And then I think I looked into it, and the World Health Organization recommended 2 years. And I was like, "Ooh, I'm not sure about 2 years, but we'll keep doing it month by month. Let's see how we get on." Yeah. And food gets introduced, and it started weaning off. And I was like, "Okay, well, let's just." Then I was like, "Well, it'd be really nice if I could just do it on his terms."
Yeah,
we did it on my terms.
It was a nice thought.
It was nice, yeah. And but the thing is, he's very he understands a lot, and he loves books, so I used a book in the end as a book. I don't know who the author is, but
I will get it from you later, and I will share it with you guys later too.
It's a kid's book, so you read it with them. Okay. And I really like the approach, and I could see he was understanding it, so we read that every day up until when I was thinking, okay, we'll just slowly have it. It's called Booby Moon. Okay. So it's basically the concept of like, and it worked really well. He loves the moon. When he sees the moon, he's always like obsessed with it, and he's like, one day he was like, "Mummy, I like it moon." So I was like, this looks like it was made for you. Like,
amazing.
It aligns with his birthday, and in the book, it was very well written, and awesome. Illustrations show different things. It's like, look, that's you and me, and and now the milk has gone away, and so we did it before he was 2, which kind of worked because I started doing this tour. Yeah. So I was like, actually, it's probably better for him not to. I would have had to take him with me on the whole tour.
Okay.
If we were still breastfeeding. Okay. But because he had started to respond whilst I was still home, I was like, okay, had gone a few days without breastfeeding. So I was like, okay, I think he's ready. Okay. So let's just do it. But that was its own process as well. Yeah. But it was amazing.
Yeah,
but
you will be back I will have you back for the breastfeeding segment, because I'm laughing. I think there are going to be a gajillion stories around that, because not one size fits all. And man, it's intense.
It is. And as you say, if breastfeeding wasn't part of your journey, it doesn't mean it's just
wasn't part
of your journey. Exactly. And I think
as simple as that.
I think it could have been part of a lot more people's journeys, just from talking to people and how they didn't realise, like, I can't remember what it was, but there's a time where it kind of gets a bit challenging which is natural. And if you know that, then you can kind of go with it. If you like, if you're supported through it, like I definitely wouldn't have got through without the support. Breastfeeding cafes and La Leche is also a good organisation that help online. I saw them. And even the breastfeeding hotline, I think I called them up a couple of times.
Okay. I just went to. I had a couple of breastfeeding workshops in my the children's sort of play groups in my area, and that's what I did, and a lot of online research, and also speaking to friends. I know I spoke to you about it. I spoke to our friend Siobhan. I spoke to our friend Deanna. I spoke to any mum that I knew that was breastfeeding. I spoke to, and any mum that had a challenge or found it challenging, I definitely spoke to them because I knew that they went through exactly what I'm facing right now. So I definitely did that. But yeah, the breastfeeding chronicles they will happen for sure. My final question to you, final question is: what is your biggest love, biggest takeaway, and or biggest struggle? You might have one of those things or none of those things at all.
Oh, of motherhood or life or what?
Of motherhood. Let's keep it on topic.
So motherhood. So biggest struggle or love?
Biggest love, takeaway, struggle. If there's what.
So
whatever you feel like.
My biggest love is just watching my son, just watching him. I love to observe him. I love to see how he sees the world. And
there's nothing like it, right?
I love going around the house and suddenly it's like, why is the letter J in the cupboard underneath? Like, and just knowing that he's been here, he's made a decision looking for something, or I just love to watch him. He reminds me to slow down. He reminds me that
to be present.
To be present. Yeah. Like when he's calling me for something, I always try my best to just be like, okay, yes, what is it? And he will be telling me something. He'll suddenly see like the way some things have been put together, and he'll be like, that looks like M. And I'm like, look at it, and I'll be like, it does. It does, and I miss that. So thank you for showing me that.
You guys are so cute. Love it.
Biggest struggle.
Yeah, or takeaway. There may not be a struggle. It's not by force.
I mean, breastfeeding.
Fair.
we've come and conquered that.
Yeah.
And my biggest takeaway is that I think, I think motherhood is something that is for us and is for them. And I feel like the generation before us, they were trained that it was about us the whole time. So when you speak to mothers now, or at least of my mother's generation, it's like, oh, we didn't take time to pay attention to those little things. We just kept going. We just had to keep moving,
going, keep working,
keep going. Exactly. We didn't have time to sit down and write a poem book about your experience.
Start a podcast about motherhood.
They were just like, let's keep it moving. We need to, put food on the table. We need to keep moving. So I know that I'm, a steward of this child for maybe another 10 years before he starts telling me he wants to do these things in his own way, and I have to respect that it's different to maybe what I want for him. So I'm really trying to make sure that I'm enjoying this time for myself, because I know that this is what I will use in my later life to kind of remember and cherish as I watch him become fully himself.
Yeah, that's a lovely thought. That's so lovely. Where can people find your book? I know you said Amazon. Can you remind us of, imagine I asked you the question, I'll answer it myself. Rude. What is the name of the book? Where can they find it? Tell us about your socials. How can people get in touch with you?
So the book is called The Newborn Streets, literally just in reference to these new streets that we find ourselves on as mothers. And you can find that on Amazon.
Whoop.
I'm on Instagram. That's where I have I suppose I play the most. But even though, hey, have I posted anything recently?
Doesn't matter.
As we're in these creative pursuits of ours. So Instagram, am I on Twitter or X or whatever? I mean, I'm there.
X.
Do I?
Threads.
Threads. I'm not sure about Threads.
I signed on, got my handle. I look at it every so often. I really want to delete it. You can't because it's connected to your Instagram.
Well, this is it. As soon as there was something like that, I said, I will not do it.
I didn't know that until well after the fact. I went,
you see, you didn't redo your research.
I didn't.
Because when I saw that, I was like, until I have to, because I'm just that person. It's like, until I have to, I won't. Because it's like, you're just...
taking up space on my phone.
Exactly. So I'm not on Threads yet. But yeah, Instagram, there's a website coming.
Whoop.
YouTube is there. Begging. Look at the history there. But yeah, Instagram, I guess. Instagram.
What's your handle?
Is Rebecca_Amissah. So thank you for having me. It's been
fun.
Thank
you. I'm glad we popped your podcast cherry. Bang. I mean, that doesn't sound pleasant, but I'm glad it happened. And thank you for being on. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Woo. Hey loves, before we sign off, just a quick note to remind you that everything shared on this episode is based on personal research and personal experiences, lived experiences. I hope we were able to give you some food for thought, but please make sure you conduct your own research and speak to your healthcare professional if you have any questions or concerns. Okay, with love, catch you on the next one.